Hey, welcome back to the channel, Weather Junkies. I'm Greg, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype. I got your update here for your Monday, August the 26th, 2024, as we take a look at our weather headlines. So we're looking at an enhanced area of severe weather threat here for today across the high plains. We're talking about South Dakota, getting up toward Minnesota, and we'll break down that here in just a second. And that's going to continue for the next couple days as it kind of traverses to the northern tier of the United States, into the Great Lakes, and into the Northeast. Now we're looking at major heat continuing. We're talking those feel-like temperatures well into the 100s, maybe pushing up to 110 degrees in some instances. So very, very hot indeed. And we're going to talk about the simmering tropics. And we're talking about simmering, I'm talking about the water temperatures. Boy, they're very warm out there. It's quiet for the moment, but boy, I'm really concerned that once things get going, it's going to really be something to watch as we go into the month of September and the peak of the hurricane season. Now, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this report, if you've not subscribed, please help this veteran out. He's trying to build an effective channel here, and I want to provide the best weather information possible. So please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the algorithm. Give me a thumbs up. That also helps as well. And leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think of this report. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the big surface features here across the satellite imagery. Very quiet here across the eastern half of the United States. Got some rains up here, up toward Maine, but to most of the country, pretty quiet here. We got a nice big warm up, hot, dry air, especially in this portion of the country from Iowa, Missouri, into Illinois, Indiana. This area is where we're going to see a lot of those heat advisories in effect. Our next storm system here that's pulling out of the Rockies into the plains, this is what's going to be setting up that severe weather here in the same area. This is going to be plowing into that very warm, juicy air with that cold air back off toward the west. It's a classic clash of the air masses here. That's going to set up that weather there. And not looking too bad out here on the west coast, getting a chance to settle down after a few days of rain over the weekend. All right, here's our surface map right now. Again, here's our storm system coming on out. Check out these readings here in the 40s and 50s. Look at that, 32 there in Nevada. Unusually cold to see a pocket this cold air coming in here across the west, but very warm and juicy. Morning temperatures here, I see 79, 73, already very warm into the 70s, and they're going to be shooting up into the triple digits. You factor in that humidity, it's going to feel quite warm and quite uncomfortable for a lot of people for today. Thus, all the advisories here in the middle of the country here. You can see the purple areas, that's your excessive heat warnings here, and we got the heat advisories there in the orange. These are heat watches here, kind of in that burgundy color. So very warm. So you got that cold air plowing into this. And you got all the ingredients here setting up for a very, very active weather day, to say the least, out there. Now, the current system right now is pulling out of the Rockies. So we're getting some rain now. Not a big deal. I don't even see any lightning with this. Just some rains here near the Rapid City area here in the western portions of South Dakota. But again, just some general rains here. And as this pushes off toward the east, we'll see things get firing up, especially going into tonight. That's when things will really start getting hot and heavy for that severe weather. In fact, our weather city of the day is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Beautiful shot there, there at Sioux Falls right now. It'll stay dry for that area, mostly sunny. Temperature around 91, but those feel-like temperatures will be well above 100 degrees for today. Again, severe weather with an enhanced risk of severe weather possible for Sioux Falls a little bit later going into tonight. And if you would like to have your city considered as the potential weather city of the day, and you got a great webcam you know of in your area, please post it down below in the comments section, and we'll consider it for a future broadcast. All right, let's go ahead and break down that severe weather risk here that we're expecting here for today as we're looking at that day one outlook here from the Storms Prediction Center. Let's go ahead and step through this, shall we? Let's go ahead and break this down. As you can see there, that orange enhanced area coming from Wisconsin heading back over into South Dakota. That is our area of concern here for today that we're going to be watching very closely for the development for that. In fact, I will be doing a live broadcast for today. That'll be starting at about 5 o'clock. Going to go for about 4 hours, I think, for this afternoon and into tonight. So we're going to watch this stuff very closely. Let's break it down by the panels here. We'll look at the tornado risk here running about 5%. That's an area there in brown. Of course, that includes Sioux Falls. That's why I include them as the weather city of the day. Surrounded there in the green, which is about 2%. The biggest risk is going to be hail and winds, or that's going to be the huge threat here because you get some very large hail, upwards of 2 inches in diameter, and possibly even larger, depending on how big the supercells get here. And the wind threat, that's going to be high as well. We're talking winds getting up to close to 80 miles per hour. That's in that area in red. So we're talking about a 30% chance of seeing some inclement weather there. And then once this system goes by, it'll be shifting over to the Great Lakes and into the Northeast in the coming days. So as you take a look at the day 2 outlook here, again, this shifts over into the Great Lakes, going into Michigan, predominantly Michigan, and into Wisconsin. And then the day 3 outlook, that shifts get further off toward the east, going into areas of New England. So we're going from New York State over toward Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, stretching back into Michigan. And then another system behind that one will be setting off the potential for some severe weather as well behind this. That'll be that next cold front that'll be coming in here as we go into, say, portions of the Dakotas again, right up in here as we go into Thursday. So we'll have to watch that system again as we finish off the week. So again, a pretty active week ahead weather-wise. A little unusual to see, I'll be honest with you, here toward the end of August. But that's what we're looking at here on the big picture for today. So again, recapping that close-up again for today, we're looking at that enhanced area of severe weather. We're talking about areas of Sioux Falls. We're talking about Minneapolis. We're talking about La Crosse, kind of on the edge of that. And then the yellow, that's that slight risk. That includes Duluth, heading over to Rapid City, and getting close to Milwaukee as well, and Green Bay, as we're looking at that severe weather risk for today. And we'll be watching that closely for later this afternoon. Let's look at the tropics right now, which continues to stay very quiet out there. Hard to believe we're going to go into the month of September and not have an active storm out there right now. It is very, very quiet, and that'll continue to stay that way here over the next 7 days, the way things are looking on all the models. Now, as we take a look at the latest satellite imagery, what's going on out there, we do have a couple of tropical waves here, sitting one right here, and there's another one here, but they're all fairly weak. They're not overly strong as they continue to run into an environment. Still some Saharan dust out there, just not the most conducive looking environment right now for the tropics right now because of what's going on. Winds are not all that conducive for development as well. We continue to see some a lot of ocean heat content in the main area where we watch for that tropical activity to develop, running well above where we were seeing yesterday. You were seeing up here August 23rd, you're seeing it well up here above the norm. The blue line there is the average, is your average. That's your historical average going back in years. But again, we've got plenty of latent heat out there that's going to continue to be a problem for these storm systems to develop. So as we take a look at the current sea surface temperatures, it's kind of a global snapshot here. As you see that very warm water, we're talking about the areas there in the Gulf of Mexico. Boy, we're talking about some very, very warm temperatures in here, quite high to say the least, almost like bath water out there with temperatures running well into the upper 80s. In fact, I can kind of show you that, kind of a closer look on this. We're talking 31 degrees Celsius, so that's about 87.8 degrees. So the Gulf is simmering as well as portions there going back into the Caribbean. So some very, very warm temperatures running across this zone right now. So what I'm thinking here is because the environment out in the Atlantic is not that great, it hasn't been for weeks on end, that we need to watch closely to areas that are not traditionally where we see a lot of our active zones. Now, traditionally, this is looking at September, you see that we typically watch out here in the Atlantic for development to happen. What I think we're going to see this year is we need to pay closer attention to what's going on closer to the continental United States, Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, and off maybe over the Bahamas areas. That's the areas that we're going to watch closely. Again, I'm still thinking my prediction right now is 6 to 8 named storms, kind of staying conservative here. I've seen forecasts go a little bit higher, but I think 6 to 8 named storms here for the month of September. And those folks in the southeast coast and the Gulf of Mexico really need to pay attention because once things get going, I think they're going to get fired up very quickly once again. So here's where we are with the naming list right now. Francine is our next named storm. To give you an idea, last year at this time, we were already on the I storm. So we're definitely running behind schedule compared to last year. We've had 1 major hurricane so far, 3 hurricanes overall, and a couple of tropical storms, that would be in Alberto and Chris. So those developed fairly close to the coastline. So that's where we are with that system right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you, I'm going to go ahead and step you through here and show you the latest model data here on this. I'm going to go ahead and loop this through real quick before we kind of breaking down to the severe weather risk here across the country. I'm just going to loop this through. Again, this is the European model here going about 10 days out. And notice we're not seeing anything showing any kind of conduciveness coming out of that intertropical convergence zone, which is in this zone right here. This is where we typically watch for activity to form, and we're just not seeing it out there again, as I'm looping this through, everything's staying pretty quiet right now. So we'll see what happens. Again, do not look at any model forecasting beyond 10 days. 7 to 10 days is really the max. So if you see anybody showing you something beyond 10 days, take it with a grain of salt. A lot of that's history and climatology, kind of taking into effect the global pattern, which is always subject to change. So again, I like to kind of stay in that 10-day window right now. And right now, things are quiet here as we go into that first week of September. All right, let's go ahead and check this off now. We got to talk about the severe weather risk for today. We're going to take a look at this. So we're going to switch over here. Let me back this up here to the beginning. So we're at the beginning of this, and we're going to talk about the continental United States here. Let's look at the north central region. That's the area of concern here, as we're going to look at the high resolution model, and we're going to specifically look here at the 6Z, which kind of takes us out 26 hours, gives us a little more run here. So we're going to be looking at here the reflectivity of where we expect storms to kind of get developing here as we go into later this afternoon. So as we go into tonight, you see those storms really start to flare up there across areas of the Minnesota, especially here. Let me switch this over. I'm sorry, on the wrong thing here. Back this up. Get this on the right graphic. We got to be on the right graphic here, folks, right? All right, so here we go. So let's go ahead and step on through this again. We're seeing the storms here that we expect here through the Dakotas here through this afternoon. And then as we go toward 5 o'clock, well, things should start to pop. This is where I'll start to be watching things. You start to see these little development here start to take place. So we'll be watching this area very closely to see if we're going to be getting any isolated thunderstorms. So I'm going to be looking for the supercell thunderstorms. Those are the ones that have the better chance for becoming potentially tornadic here for today. So let's go and clear this out again. Watch that timestamp in your upper right-hand corner here as we'll see things kind of deteriorate. So we get some storms here as we head toward the 8 o'clock hour. Some pretty hefty thunderstorms there across portions of Minnesota. And then we'll be watching another piece of energy here that'll be kind of rotating in out of the areas of South Dakota. This will be kind of riding off here toward the east as we go into later into the afternoon, into the overnight period, which is always dangerous when you're talking about severe weather here, getting into the overnight hours. So this will be pushing up to the east. You see another little cluster of storms. So we got a couple of areas we're watching there around 8 o'clock. We'll be watching that initial zone first, and then we'll watch this next zone, which will be plowing in through the overnight hours across South Dakota and kind of going across southern Minnesota, going through the early morning hours there, and that'll race in across into Wisconsin as that last piece of energy kind of ejects out. So we got a couple of zones to watch. We'll be doing live coverage on this initial coverage here for this evening, and then there'll be another batch of storms that'll come in here through the overnight hours. So if you're in this part of the country, make sure you got that weather app. Make sure you got it on your phone right there. If you got a weather radio, just make sure it's on and the alert system is set because it's going to get quite stormy there, to say the least. Let's go back here to the continental United States once again, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the European model here for the next 10 days. We'll see how things are kind of evolving here with our storm systems here. As I go ahead and put this back into this mode here. And we want to look at the, obviously I want to take it all the way out to 240. So we're going to 10-day look here on the European model. As I stretch this through again, we're watching that active weather across the high plains. That'll be for going into Tuesday. Then it'll shift over into the Great Lakes. It'll be the Great Lakes turn. We'll be watching this area up here through this zone. That'll be what we'll be watching there for severe weather going Tuesday into Wednesday, as the Storms Prediction Center is showing you there for those days. So let's go ahead and step you through this once again as we'll continue to see this. Let me clear this out as we continue to watch that kind of system kind of pull off the northeast there. So things will be moving on out. Then we'll be turning our attention to that next system. Again, you kind of saw that on Thursday. So we got that next round of potential severe weather here back in that same zone once again with that next system. This is what's going to bring in the cooler air, really kind of dive those temperatures down here as we go through the end of the forecast period here. So I'll watch as we track this frontal system. This one's going to probably sweep on through. You see the frontal system here kind of coming on down through here as that cool air is going to migrate in here. And it's going to definitely be very warm here across the southeast, to say the least, as it kind of bumps into that air mass. And we're definitely going to be seeing the humidity increasing across the southeast as well through that forecast period. So we'll take this on out to the end of this run here. Again, as you see that frontal system kind of get hung up here across the southeast. Looks like a stormy day on your Saturday as we wrap up the month of August. So you're looking at some thunderstorms here. I'm going to switch this back over to black. Not sure why it's been doing that in orange, but here you go. So we're talking about this zone in here, looking at some pretty heavy rains and storms potentially from, say, heading from Pennsylvania, stretching back toward Atlanta and Birmingham and getting back over toward portions of Texas. This zone has been kind of dry here for a while, so they definitely could use the rainfall. It's going to be much appreciated, to say the least, in that zone. So again, as we take this forward, going through your Labor Day weekend, looking pretty quiet, except just afternoon thunderstorms, definitely going to be pretty robust here on Labor Day, basically stretching from the Carolinas and going through the southeast and through Texas. So it looks like a lot of air mass thunderstorms through this zone on Labor Day, unfortunately. So you may have to be dodging some rains for those cookouts for that day. And then it looks like that just kind of stays unsettled, and that frontal boundary is just going to kind of sit there. We were going to see some cooler temperatures. Just don't think it's going to get quite down into the southeast. Things will be looking a little cooler just because of the increased risk of rain. And like I said, the southeast has been very dry here recently, so to see the rain coming back out there, it will be a welcome relief. Now we're going to switch over and talk about temperatures, folks, and we are not kidding when we're talking about hot weather, man. We're talking about some very steamy weather. I got this on the heat index forecast here. This is at feel-like temperature. We're talking about the combination of the air temperature with the humidity, and we're focusing in here specifically on this area here. Look, when you're looking at 107, 108, 110 degrees, that's where all the big bullseye is for that those advisories out there for this excessive heat warning. So if you're in that part of the country, if you don't need to be outside, please don't. Also, make sure you check on the elderly. You know, if they don't have air conditioning or they keep their air conditioning kind of high, just make sure you check on them, make sure they're doing okay as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step you through this kind of day by day. So we're going to kind of track through this here and watch as this heat kind of moves a little bit there, kind of moved on me there a little bit. So as we go forward here, as we're going into your Tuesday afternoon, so this really kind of shifts off a little bit, but again, that same zone you've seen here, including Chicago, getting back over toward Indianapolis. You've seen that for some very hot temperatures, still pretty hot. See triple-digit feel-like temperatures down here across Texas, but you know, they're kind of used to it. But higher in the Midwest, man, it is going to be really brutally hot. Very, very hot to say the least. And I like saying that a lot, don't I? So let's go ahead and take this forward and go toward Wednesday. Let's go through Wednesday. Let's back this up to the 21st on Wednesday. Again, just a big swath of the country on Wednesday is going to be boiling with some very, very hot temperatures. The only thing that's going to save areas of the deep south, I think, is the fact that the humidity levels are still not going to be quite that warm, but a big swath of the country here looking at some very hot temperatures here on your Wednesday. But we do have some good news. We're going to have some cooler weather that's going to be kind of coming on down here as we go into Thursday and Friday. That's going to help alleviate some of those very hot temperatures as we head toward the end of the week. So again, watch that timestamp as we go forward. You can see that front making its presence felt. Definitely see a nice drop off here. Here comes that frontal system as it continues to move off toward the east and to the south a little bit here. And as we go into the afternoon here, this is on your Thursday. Again, this is the afternoon high. You can see the big change, and I want to highlight this. Here's a 70-degree temperature here, and here's a 98-degree feel-like temperature here. So yeah, you got a pretty good frontal boundary coming through that zone there on Thursday. So watch that timestamp as we continue to watch this thing progress for the week ahead. Those cool temperatures, 60s and 50s, that's going to feel so good. These are late in the day. These are your morning lows. They're feeling pretty nice there. Intermountain region showing some 40s out there, but still very warm out ahead of that cold front as we'll be dealing with. Again, you got that kind of surge of moisture kind of coming in from the south and the east there. That's going to eventually open up the Gulf of Mexico and allow for some rainy weather there across portions of the southeast, some much needed rainfall. And as we go through the day here, as we go switch this back over, here we go. And still very hot in the southeast, triple digits feels there. Once again, this is for your Friday afternoon, looking at 100s again for near Atlanta, Birmingham, getting over to Jackson, very, very hot indeed. And this front will not make it to the southeast. I think it's going to stay just to the north of there. The front system is going to kind of stall out, but it will bring us an increased chance of rain, or at least beating back the hundreds. You notice by the time we get into your Saturday afternoon, a lot of areas here across that we're getting inundated with that very warm temperatures. Now we're seeing upper 70s, low 80s. That's definitely going to feel a lot better than what you guys are going to experience, especially today and tomorrow. Some very, very hot temperatures, but at least we're going to see some relief coming our way with that nice cold front. And we'll go ahead and take this all the way on out to the end, going here into your Sunday. And Sunday afternoon, things will begin to kind of level on off a little bit, and just kind of typical weather. But look at these morning lows here for Monday morning. This is going to feel so nice. Look at that 40s. You're just seeing some very, very nice low temperatures here, with temperatures in the 40s over here. I mean, look at this. They got 45, 46, 48 across the high plains. A little taste of fall there coming as we go into early next week. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how this is how this all translates as far as your climate outlook over the next 10 weeks. We want to see what exactly does that mean for us as far as our weather is concerned here. So here's the latest climate outlook here. Climate outlook is starting to show what we just showed you there as far as the cooler weather. This is going from August 31st through September 4th. We got a nice little cool down here, warm again here in the east. Big warm up out here in the west, which you're seeing the unusually cool weather out there this morning. We saw those 30s and 40s. That's going to be going away here in the 6 to 10 day outlook. Precipitation wise, pretty good coverage of rain here. Got above normal precipitation here across Texas. Below normal up here. We'll get a chance to dry out a little bit. It's been a pretty active track along the Canadian and U.S. border here. So this is again going in toward your Labor Day weekend. So looking bad there, but definitely looking wetter here across the southeast. As we were showing you, looks like the southeast, especially over toward Texas, will be dealing with a wet and rainy Memorial Labor Day weekend. So we got to plan accordingly. And notice the cool swath expands quite a bit here across the Midwest into the Northeast. We got a nice cool down that's coming this way. We saw some of those 40s will kind of come down into this zone as we're looking at September 2nd through September 8th. Still above normal here right along the Gulf Coast because that frontal system is probably going to get stalled down to the south, and still looking at above normal temperatures here in the west. Obviously, when you get a cool down this way, you're going to get a warm up on the backside. That's what we're seeing here. And then again, looking at your precipitation, still looking at above normal precipitation here across the mid-Atlantic down to the southeast and back over toward Texas. Below normal precipitation, thanks to that nice cool air coming down out of Canada across the Great Lakes. And it looks like we still get another system here coming out on the west coast as we go into the first week of September. So a very, very active next few days ahead, folks. We've got a pretty active storm track that's going to be coming our way. We'll be watching that closely. Again, I am planning on doing some severe weather coverage for later today at 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And if you'd like to get those weather alerts for live coverage as well as these daily weather updates in your YouTube feed, all you got to do is please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you learn on future content. And as always, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. All those things do help the YouTube algorithm as I'm trying to build this effective product here for you to have on a regular basis. And I definitely could use your help. It's a journey. When you're a YouTuber, it's a journey, and you got to work to kind of make things happen. All right, that is your update for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you late this afternoon for our severe weather coverage. Till then, be good. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.